Welcome to For the Record, an unfiltered view on current trends and timeless advice for surviving in the aesthetics industry. Whether you're an injector, practice owner, sales rep, or marketer, it's time to set the record straight. Each week we cut through the chaos and showcase diverse perspectives and winning ideas from the best minds in the industry. I'm your host, Dr. Tiffany Hall, Chief Growth Officer at Aesthetic Record. Now, let's get started on this week's episode. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of For the Record. We're on episode 73, so lucky number 13 for the season. And we're going to the man cave today. We have so many female guests on our show that it was important to bring the male perspective. And so we found the ultimate man, the Tox Papi, if you will, all the way from Orlando. So Puerto Rican born, but then Orlando raised, a stint in Miami, now back to Orlando. But we have with us today physician associate Chris Cotto. And he is larger than life as a character, if you want to call him that. We met, I don't know, maybe a year ago or so, and he had friends with people I'm friends with, went and did a fellowship with Larry Blevins and Dr. Danny Suarez, and we just kind of met through the grapevine and had a blast at an event recently in Benev. He was at Aesthetic Next, did his first on-stage talk with Audrey Rose, which was, I think, a fun thing for him, and just an all-out great guy. So I'm excited for this today. We're going to have a lot of fun and really dive into what it's like to be a man in aesthetics and to go through business ownership. I think a long history in emergency medicine and kind of came over, got bit by the bug into aesthetics, into the dark side of medicine. And he's here now, blowing it up with his own med spa down in Florida. Not South Florida, but in Orlando. A bit of a different audience. So I can't wait to hear all about that and what you're doing. So Chris, welcome to our show.
Hello. How are you doing today?
I am good. You came off a long day at clinic, and so I think he was rushing here because he had a patient who wanted more than he bargained for. So we're all here at the tail end of the evening, and so we're going to keep it together for you guys. We're seeing cocktails. Chris, if we had cocktails, this would be a whole lot better, but we don't.
Oh, so much more fun.
We don't. But I want to kind of dive into your background, but, the Aesthetic District Med Spa. So I love your AD, your little logo on Instagram, your whole branding. Your Instagram actually is very, very pretty. It's very nice. You've got your whole brand going. You've got the Tox Papi persona going, but you didn't start here. Obviously, you weren't born in aesthetics. So give us an idea of how you landed here in aesthetics and on our show.
Yeah, so it's been a pretty long road through emergency medicine. I graduated out of Miami, PA program. Got into a fellowship in emergency medicine before I actually started in emergency medicine, and I've been doing emergency medicine for over 9 years now. I knew I wanted to make a change before, this all happened before COVID, but COVID kind of accelerated everything for me. I think it did that for a lot of people, honestly. And I started looking into, all right, let me get some classes, let me get some courses, let me get some hands-on. What is this field about? Let me study a little more in this field. I already was getting my Botox treatment. So I got Botox and I already kind of liked I like the field, I like the specialty. So it kind of pushed me forward into aesthetics, started off with some weekend courses. And then from there, ended up evolving into a more in-depth courses and eventually ended up in a fellowship with Larry Blevins and Danny Suarez over there in the Villages. So overall, it's been one of those up and down, a lot of work, but honestly, very, very gratifying. I love what I do. I can definitely say that.
Well, I think when you meet you're a tall dude, you're, very manly. You've got the whole like machismo thing, you're a masculine kind of guy. I look at you and think, aesthetic eye. I would look at you and think, boy, that guy's got an aesthetic eye, but you're a great injector. You do have an aesthetic eye. And obviously you've studied under some great people with Larry and with Danny. So I know that you're great at your craft, but how does a person choose in all the things you could have done? Why aesthetics? Was it a matter of like wellness, the overall patient wellness and feeling great about themselves, not just, out inside, but also outside? Or how did you pick this one thing of all the things you could have done? Why was it aesthetics?
So, when you work in the emergency department, you see the worst of the worst and people, you see them at the lowest. I wanted to kind of do the opposite of that. I want to see healthy, non-sick patients that just want to feel a little bit better about themselves and already are happy, but they just want to accentuate some of the little thing here, little thing there that'll make them even happier. It's a completely different patient population, and it's literally black and white. It's completely opposite one from the other. And I'm not gonna lie, I am loving this side of the medicine. this side of the spectrum in medicine. Completely loving it. It's you're helping people in different ways. Uh, when you see somebody with, I'm going to give you an example. If you see somebody that has a acne, hasn't been able to treat them, they don't even want to take pictures. A young girl, and you're able to help them with that, and all of a sudden you see them taking pictures, and their confidence goes up. That to me, that's filling. That completely fills my heart with joy, and and more. So there's more to aesthetics, I would say, than just it's vain. Some people look at it that way. There's so much more to aesthetics than vanity, which I really love, and that's what I try to drive into when I see my patients.
Yeah, I think there's, especially now, people coming off COVID, you mentioned COVID, everyone was sad, depressed, lonely, they were stuck in their houses. I think now more than ever, this was like the escape for people to feel good again and think, feel like they had a place in the world. And obviously the Zoom boom was a big thing. We all looked like we were hideous monsters on Zoom for a year. It was like the turtleneck that we all had, just looked horrible. I think that there was a part of that where both providers kind of emerged from that thinking, I want to do something that's healthy and a healthy population, but also patients saying, I need something to validate and make me feel good about myself again. I mean, we saw the explosion after COVID in our industry. Everyone just was out. Scales were full for a whole year, year and a half. We're kind of on a downturn right now a little bit, but I think we're still riding the wave in many ways from COVID. But in your patient population in Orlando, it's obviously Larry's people are all old. I don't know if yours are all old, but it's a little different.
My average age patient is about 36 to 38 years old. So I have a lot of newer mothers or stay home moms. So there's a lot more families that I take care of, which I love. I mean, they took care of their children. Now they are turning the age. They're getting closer to their 40s, and then sometimes in mid 40s, going into their 50s, and they want to do something about doing a little thing here, a little thing there to slow things down and age gracefully. Ultimately, that's what most people want to do. Is just age gracefully and look good throughout.
Yeah, we don't want to be Marge Simpson. If we can, if we can, I was at one point, Chris. I had to have my whole face dissolve and start over because it was a hot mess express, honey. It was not good, but obviously it's better now. But I want to kind of go back to you becoming an aesthetic provider because you do the things people don't want to do. So every year people ask me about aesthetic next. They want to be on podium. They want to speak on stage. And I'm like, I don't know who you are. I have no idea where you come from. Come do a year as a volunteer. Let us work with you. Let our providers work with you. If people who are on stage think that you're great and work with you really well, then that means that you're probably great at what you do. I need some validation, right? Like, who the heck are you? I've seen you now at Benev working for no money and helping as an assistant. You've been at Audrey's course helping, I think, with her stuff. You came to AN and helped with our stuff. People always, they misunderstand the benefit of just being in the right room at the right time. And like, that's a unique chance that you get when you say, I don't care what it takes to get there. If I'm in the right room with people who matter, I'll get seen and get noticed and I'll get the chance I want. I feel like you capitalized on that really well this year to Aesthetic Next. But, thinking about that, you've obviously been making a really nice paycheck for many, many years as a PA in the ER. And now coming here saying, I'll work for free with all these skills. I'll work for free to just be part of it. What's your mindset? Because I feel like you're doing it the right way. And I wish people would learn and hear that and think, gosh, that's the right way to do it. But they just won't, Chris. I can't convince them to do it.
So it's difficult for the mindset of a person that's making a substantial salary to go and you feel like you're taking a step in the wrong direction by taking on these volunteer jobs. I don't look at it that way. It to me is if I'm in, like you mentioned, if I'm in the right place with the right people, they get to know who I am. They get to know my personality, my skill set, my background. You create those network. Your network is your net worth. I think I've heard that many times in the past. You create the network of people that you want around you. You create your team that you want around you, and you got to humble yourself to be able to do those things. Sometimes, listen, I'm around people and I'm around clinicians that have been doing this for years. They were at a place that I was before, sometime in the past. I'm just trying to, keep up with them a little bit. But you have to be able to put in the work. You got to put in the time, and you got to humble yourself to be able to do those things. It's a mindset. Once you have that mindset put together and you let go a little bit of that pride, you continue to have your pride, but let go of the intense pride and just learn. Every conversation that I have with every single provider that I have, I try to learn a little bit here, a little bit there, and just bring it in. I try to, I'll have fun conversations with small talk, but most of my conversations, even with small talk, there's something behind. I'm learning. I'm trying to pick up what can I do better. What are they doing this? What's going on over here? How can I get the next opportunity to speak? or maybe how can I get the opportunity to train, or what can I do better, and what can it makes me as a clinician a better person and a better clinician overall. So what I would say is take a step back, don't look at it in a negative light. Understand that people have been doing this for a lot longer than you have, and you're going to be around those people and learn from it. I mean, that's the only way to move up in life. You got to learn. If you don't learn, you just stop.
Well, especially in this field, because I think it is challenging, especially because no one teaches it. Like, you don't learn it in medical school or nursing school or PA school. No one's like, hey, here's some Botox. Have fun. Everyone has to train here. And you did the ultimate sacrifice and went to the fellowship program with Larry and with Dr. Suarez, which again has no money. You have to do a whole project there. I think you studied maybe facial dynamics or something with cheek filler. You do months and months and months with no pay, working like probably like a dog for Larry because he probably works you to the bone. But you come out of that as an amazing injector, knowing really all the things. So if you could do it again, and I'm sure you're going to say yes, but was that a great choice for you? And do you feel like it accelerated your learning curve crazy fast to have done that whole intensive program?
Absolutely, 1000%. There's, it's not just about injecting, it's about the small things behind the scene, how to mix the product correctly, how to transfer it without air bubbles, how to actually patient movement, how do you move the patients around your practice efficiently while leaving, you're speaking with them, and you have multiple patients at the same time, how to balance your time from side to side, how to properly use and utilize your assistant, how to properly speak to them about setting them up for the treatment plan. It's more than just observing an injection and just injecting in front of them, which is part of the curriculum. I have to inject, I have to have 100 procedures supervised, whether are lasers, injectables with filler, threads. There's multiple treatments that we can do, but that's just part of the program. The other part of the program with that, like Danny Suarez, is also getting published. So you have to find a topic that you want to write about, and do the research and work on getting published, which is fantastic for a provider's career when you're published in a journal of plastic surgery or whichever journal at that time gets selected. So there's multiple aspects of it. Additionally, if you own your own business, you own your own practice, you're seeing a successful practice run. You're learning how to run a practice just by observing how they're operating behind the scenes. And that team at VIP, whether with Larry and Dr. Suarez and Carrie, Larry's wife, they're honestly, they're phenomenal. I love that team. That were so welcoming, and any questions I had about anything business related, they will talk to me and guide me. So it's a full package you get there when you go do this fellowship, which is, I mean, I don't think many of these exist, to be honest with you. And
Think anymore. I think it's the only one that exists. That's everyone's clamoring to get there, but you got a golden ticket. So
I got in. I got in. I know it's funny. I think I pestered them enough to let me in. I uh I was working in the ER overnights, and in the morning they wanted me there around 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. So I would get out of the ER shift around like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Then it's about an hour and a half drive to the villages. So I'll jet over there without sleep, go over there, spend the whole day with them there. Then I'll drive back. I have my clothes in my car. Drive back to the hospital, and I'll take a quick nap in the car, and then just kind of keep it running. So I used to shadow before I started the fellowship. So every week I used to show up once or twice a week, and I think again I pestered them enough to say, "All right, guy, you're working your ass off." Excuse my French, but let's give you a shot, and it worked out. It definitely worked out. I also I started a slogan: "Vote for Chris." I think I had all the staff saying "Vote for Chris" when it was time to choose the the next fellow. So yeah, that staff over there is fantastic, welcoming. Uh, they're all great, and they tolerated me for 6 months. Geez, that's difficult to do.
well, but, you mentioned the part about running the business, and I'm always curious about people who come from medicine, traditional medicine in a hospital where they don't own a clinic. One day you're at the ER working overnight, right? And you're, in a sense, taking orders from the hospital, if you will, from the CEO and the board and all the people who are there, all this, all the red tape, bureaucracy, formulary, blah blah blah, upcoding and billables. And then day number two, you're now a business owner on your own, like doing it all yourself. No one teaches you that. You have to, I think, innately want to do that and have to have some kind of skill set around it, at least a little bit, like natively have some skill set. But you don't know what the hell you're doing when you start. So how did you even think through, I'm going to learn to become an injector? Let's say, that's a huge step. And also, I'm going to own a business at the same time. Like, what the hell were you thinking? And why would you do that to yourself? Why would you not get one thing mastered first and then go do the other thing?
Yeah, it's is that what is that saying? Own a business, they say, right? You'll be happy, they say. Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and you have to be self. You got a lot of it is self-taught. You have to be self-taught in many many angles. There was countless amount of nights that I spent researching on the policies that I needed for me to open a med spa, the licenses that I needed, whether it was just for a business like city, county. It was just a lot. I fell into a lot of traps, because there's always the sponsored little programs that I ended up paying that I could have done it for free at other places, especially when you're opening a business. You don't want to spend money on things that are unnecessary. But it's a lot of self-taught uh, education. So you got to learn as you go. That computer of mine, I think I bought 3 different laptops at that time because I was burning through them. The memory was frying. I'm downloading every every piece of consent that I can find, and I'm modifying and I'm looking. So a lot of it was self-taught. I'm still learning as I go along, but one of the great things about uh, joining and being a volunteer in many places and just kind of trying to rub elbows with the right people is you can ask certain questions. And these questions, a lot of times, most of these guys, they're willing to just kind of like, hey, this is what I would have done, and this is what you can do, and they'll talk to you. You just got to be sure that be humble, understand who they are, and ask the question. If you don't ask, you're never going to learn. So just ask. I think my tip of the day is be humble, show to the right places so you can rub with the right elbows, and just open your mouth and talk.
And also, I think you have to synthesize what you're hearing because I have people who give me advice and I'm like, that is not right. Like they are, or I hear them tell someone else, and I'm like, I want to like walk behind, like, hey, what you just heard, don't do that. Whatever you do, do not do that thing, because I feel like there is no rule book here. Because there is no rule book, everyone's just kind of figuring it out on their own, and they're trying. It's like throw shit against the wall, see what sticks. And so there's a lot of bad advice out there. Obviously, you got to go work with Larry, and they have a great practice. They do things really well. But you mentioned like consents and compliance, and I think about this a lot, Chris. If you're starting a med spa in this industry today, in any state really, no one's there to show you all that. Like there isn't a person you can hire to say, hey, I want to open this thing up, get all my city licenses, to have an alarm here where we are. You have to have a permit from the city to have like a freaking alarm in your building, which is stupid, but you got to have one. If you have it go off and there's not a permit, they won't come help you. I mean, it's like crazy things like that. All of the legal parts of it for you, your malpractice, like again, going from hospital where it's all taken care of for you to now you're on your own doing it. People are now depending on you who work with you to have it all done. We should start that service where someone just helps you get your med spa in a box opened up.
1000%. I think that'll be very profitable too. It's yeah, and trying to put all that together. And as you said, you have to kind of figure out what's works, what doesn't work, what's real, what's not real, the right guidance. It's up to you. You listen to what they say, and then you have to do some research. Just because somebody tells you something doesn't mean you just follow it. Just somebody tells you to jump off the bridge, you're not going to just do that. You research a little bit behind the scenes. I'm like, okay, this person told me this. Let me do some research based on my state, on my city, on my county, and what can I do about this? You continue asking. You keep that little piece of information there, and you continue to ask other people. And if you continue getting the same answer, well, more than likely it's going to be the right answer at that point that they gave you the right advice. Uh, but that's just one part of because you own the business now. You have to actually learn how to inject. So uh, I think I was fortunate since in working in the ER, I'm basically a proceduralist. I do procedures day and night, so I have a syringe in my hand all the time. But I will say, when you're pushing a gel like a filler through that syringe, it is, when you're pressed, it is a lot more difficult than pushing lidocaine and other medicines that I push in the hospital. So also the syringes are a lot smaller. I have a reasonably sized hand. It's pretty large. So being able to finagle that syringe within the small little insulin syringes within my hands was a challenge. But I took it on. I bought some one of those little fake dummies. I had a bunch of syringes, and every night I would just play with it, play around. I wouldn't let go of the syringe until I felt just comfortable in my hand, and I can move it around through my fingers, and it just kind of flowed. So those are the little things that you need to do if you want to do things right. I'm an advocate of be trained in what you're going to do and having an emergency medicine background, understanding the emergencies before they happen, understanding how to treat protocols on something that I cause, it's priority to me. So I look at everything as patient safety, results, and can I make a little money to stay in business? And I'm gonna have to say this. I took that from Larry Blevins. He taught me that. So uh, that's one of his quotes. So you got to put in the time. The time is important. You can't just go into aesthetics and say, hey, I'm here. Let me just do this. Let me just do that. That's not how it works. Every specialty has a training because it's a specialty that you're working under. I didn't go into emergency medicine not knowing anything. You don't go into dermatology not knowing anything. Same thing with plastic surgery, gastroenterology, cardiology, any of the specialties you go, you need to be trained. You train properly. People train for years before they can perfect their craft. Medical students go to residency in whatever field they're going to go to. There's not like anything kind of put together here for us in aesthetics, but there are some fellowships out there, like the one that I attended to, that can help you guide where you're going to go, how you're going to do it, and the way you should do it. And that's just one step. From there, I've continued to learn. I pick up so I'll give a shout out to a couple of people that kind of walk me through. Obviously, Larry Blevins, Dr. Suarez, and inside actually the fellowship, Alexis. So she's helped me out a lot throughout. Angela, Scott Callahan, recently Audrey Rose says she's been in the actually Hania. So they've been giving me a little bit tips and about the trade here and there, and it's been fantastic. So you just gotta ask the questions, be humble, talk to them like normal people, and they'll talk to you. Have a good time. Maybe buy them a drink. They'll like you better then.
Well, I think you've got some good elbows that you're rubbing there between Hanya and Audrey, Larry. You've got the good crew there. But as you open a business and you start down this path, you kind of can't go back. Like when you say you're going to do it, especially if you leave your career in emergency medicine, you kind of just got to go forward and pray. But I'm reading this book by Simon Sinek called The Infinite Game. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but if you guys haven't heard of it, pick it up. And it talks about, we think about competition a lot and winning and losing, but being in business is an infinite game. There is no winner or loser. It isn't a football game, right? There is no start and stop clock. There isn't a defined winner. The goal is to stay in business in perpetuity, to make enough money to keep surviving, to get patients to come back and be happy with you. It's an infinite game. It goes until you die, right? Or you sell it. And I think we get really caught up in our industry about a winner and a loser, about being the best or being the influencer or having the best clinic in the city, or I'm going to beat you at, I have a better clinic than you have. And I think when you're in an ER, you think about the person who's on the table in front of you. Are they going to die or not? You're running a code, whatever it is. It's more of an infinite game, right? It's like in the here and now, keep them alive. So from a competitive standpoint, obviously Florida is highly competitive, and you guys have different laws there with RNs can't inject. So there's a lot of cash outlay because you have to be a PA or an NP or a physician if you guys don't know that. So you pay a lot more for headcount in Florida. But what is your take on competition, and what is your take on? I love what you said. It's almost like if you just do the right thing and you do it enough, the money will come. And I believe that so firmly. I can't even tell you. I live by that credo every day, that money is never the reason why. It's like do good shit, do a lot of it, good things will happen to you. But how do you, as a man, again, marketing as a man in aesthetics, with all of our frilly girly stuff, how do you compete? How do you stay afloat? How do you get patients in? What does your infinite game look like?
So when just looking at my competitors in the area, I'm actually friends with a lot of them. I have a WhatsApp group chat with 6 different med spa owners, and we're going to dinner on the 9th of December. So we stay friendly. We're not direct competition in the same city and same area in Orlando, but you look at everything as market analysis. That's really what I do, because you still have to be competitive within the market. So, but are they doing better than me? Are they not doing better than me? I don't like looking at it that way, because I don't. Maybe they've been in business longer than me. It's not fair to my mental health or anybody on my team. So me to be stressing them out over, hey, they've been doing this for 10 years. We need to be doing the same thing. That's not okay. You can't compare. But I do like to compare where they were when I'm at and where I'm at now, to see how I'm doing within my own competition, within my own bag. So I like doing that. Now, as a male, there's not many of us out here. I think I mentioned two of them, Scott and and Larry.
That's the only two. Those guys and like Needle Daddy and TJ. There's like 12 of you in all of aesthetics, I think.
Yeah, there's not many of us. There's not many of us. I think it's like 4% of injectors are males, and I think out of that 4%, 1% is I think 3% are homosexuals, and the other are straight males. So it's very small amount of guys, 4% that we have here. So in order for me to stand out, at first I thought it was going to be a challenge. I'm like, okay, how do I stand out as a man? Women are going to want to go to women, but I found out very, very fast that, especially in my area, having all these, most of them are housewives. They've had children. They like a male's perspective on beauty, because they just had children. They went through all the changes. and they have a husband at home that for some reason still looking good. He didn't have a kid. So they want to make sure that their husband is looking at them and they see beauty. So they kind of appreciate the fact that you're giving them the male's point of view on beauty. So they're thinking because they're thinking their husband is looking at them. So I've done the role play with them with many of my patients before. And I've put myself, if I was your husband, this is what I would do. I would like, yeah, I think this will look really pretty on you. And these little things will make you look super attractive. He's gonna love it. And they love it. They absolutely have taken it in very, very, very well. They've taken it up. Uh, Also, I would say I have a lot of single ladies as well, and they kind of like to visit the clinic. I'm like, all right, they like just make me hot. I got you. So I'll make you hot a little bit here, a little bit there, just to give them a nice little pop, and they love it as well. So that's been when it comes to the women aspect, that's been kind of like my edge. I've been playing into the male. I haven't been trying to hide it. At first, I thought I had to like hide it a little bit and not be myself. But if you go to my injection room, I have there's a 3 foot dartboard on the wall. So and they come in and they throw a dart. I mean, half of them hit the chair or the floor, but they throw a dart at my dartboard, and there's small, like they're insignificant little prices, like $5 off the treatment, but it's just part of the experience. They love all that stuff. When I give them their filler, it comes in a little, it's a little, almost like a little case, and I present to them their treatment for today. So I create an experience for them. They love the experience, and overall, I think it's been very successful. I think I've been breaking in the right way and just being myself, just being a guy. And they love that. They love a guy being a guy. They honestly do. I think I've kind of find that, which I was very nervous about at first. But another aspect of my patients that I have a lot of guy patients. A lot of my male patients, they have sweaty armpits. They don't want a woman looking at their sweaty armpits, so they come with a guy and I'll do their Botox there. A lot of them want the guy to do the Botox. They don't want a woman doing it for them. When they have hair loss, I inject them in there. I do regenerative medicine for their scalp. They don't want to go to a woman. They want to come to a guy. They don't want to show those flaws to a woman. Guys are guys. They don't want to show the flaws. They're a little machista. They're like, all right. uh, Additionally, I've been kind of like dabbing in and getting a little more clientele when it comes to the sexual health aspect of aesthetics. So guys getting their Botox or their let me say let me call it the tox to their scrotum because it's a little too extra wrinkly. They want to soften it up. They want their actual penis to look a little bit longer, if you could say, when they're at rest. So when it's in the flaccid stage. So when they wear their sweatpants, it looks a certain way. So I've been getting some of that. And in the women aspect, I've been getting a lot of booties. It's Florida, baby. So booty, 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 booty with kaha and polylactic acid. Am I allowed to say brand
You,
names?
you can say brand names on this show. It is not a CME approved. It's for sure not CME approved. You can say whatever you want here. Just not the F word. Just not the F word, Chris. You got to keep it clean.
Keep it clean. All right. No, 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 no F bombs. I got it. So yeah, with radius and with Sculptra in breast lift. So uh, yeah, that's where my trend has been going to, and I'm actually liking the sexual health part of it. Uh, I think patients, you create a connection with patients that they didn't have before, and uh, I'm really enjoying it. Just the holistic aspect of aesthetics that you can provide a patient and make them feel good. Listen, every patient leaves that room. I tell them off the bat, I'm a hugger. They get a hug right before they go, and they love it. They get my staff is great at following up. They get followed up if they get filler 3 days back to back, phone calls checking. If they get Botox, they get or Xeomin, they call the next day. Video threats, they get called for a week. If they have any questions or doubts, they can just swing by and I'll talk to them. Have a little consultation so they can talk. So I think creating that environment for them has also made it a little easier for me to break in as a male.
Well, you have so many good things there I want to unpack because I think we've tried to crack the nut, pardon the pun, of men and aesthetics for a long time. And I have always been a big advocate that if your practice is not androgynous, if it's like very girly, men don't feel comfortable there. Just like we wouldn't want to go to like a total man cave where everyone's like, belching and beer and, the whole, I wouldn't go there for my aesthetic treatment, right? You think about it from your perspective, it's the same thing. I would want to go to a place that's welcoming for females. So I think we've not yet done a good job of that in aesthetics. And I think men, to your point, don't want to feel vulnerable in front of a female to say, I have, especially like, the penis enlargement or scrotox, so things that probably just aren't very comfortable to talk about with another female who's maybe not your wife or your girlfriend. But So aside from that, you mentioned sexual wellness in general. This year, I will tell you, I had more penis decks that I had to look at for PowerPoint. I was in the salon and I opened up Audrey Rose's PowerPoint deck, and it has booty holes in it, and it has penises in it. And my hairstylist was like, "What in the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just working on some content." But this is a new phenomenon, and it's not new in the sense that the treatment's not new, but it's a new phenomenon that we're really focusing on, like the beautification of the penis now in med spas. And I think what it does, whether it's female sexual wellness or male, is that they become a loyalist of your practice. I think we overestimate how important your skill set is with injectables. Like, if you're a great injector, I can go to you or Larry or Alexis, I'm going to get great results, right? But if I trust you with my sexual health, I want to keep coming back to you. There's something intimate about that connection where it supersedes skill set. It's about a connection. And I think if you ever get a person in your practice to sit in your chair about sexual wellness and sexual health, they are your patient for life. I mean, for a very long time. And so that to me is the missing piece of just true patient retention. But I don't know if you're seeing that in your practice where they're yours forever if you do that and you've changed their life in that way. But how much of your practice is really made up by that now? And is it growing, leaps and bounds?
So it's still not the majority. It's still not the majority. It's growing though. It's significant. I think the information is out there, and patients nowadays we have very educated patients. They know what does what doesn't do what. They come in with like information, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's exactly what it is, and that's to me that's important. Like education in the patient, it's crucial. When they sit down, I go through the whole like this is why this is going to do this, and this is why this is going to do that. I've been to places in other med spas when I was getting my own treatment before I started my practice, and they'll just sit me down and out the door. I'm like, I don't. I mean, I guess like I just got my treatment, but and it wasn't explained to me. So when you sit them down and you educate them on all these different options that they have, and you actually convert them into sexual health, they love you. They love you. They'll come back to you. They feel comfortable. They feel comfortable with you. You're going into a point of intimacy with them that it's not reached very often with many people. So it's something that okay, I feel comfortable with him doing this. He's going to do everything else. He does all the other things as well. Why not do this and that for him or with him? But yeah, the area of my practice is starting to grow. It's still the smaller amount. It's the minority of my patients, but every week I bring one or two in, one or two in, one or two in, one or two in, and that's been so far pretty successful. I'm also gonna working on expanding my treatment options for them in that area as well. So as long as you're good to them, they'll be good to you. They'll stick around. They'll stick around and they don't want to go anywhere else. I can kind of use it. I mean, a lot of ladies have gone to get laser hair removal. When you get a Brazilian done, and all of a sudden they switch your tech after you've been using the same tech with your Brazilian, you get a little. You don't want to go to the other tech. You want the same lady that's been doing it at the same time because she's seen you exposed. Similar concept when it comes to like sexual health and aesthetics. So that's kind of the way I look at it. And so far it's been fantastic. I love my patients. They're a blast. Honestly, I love them. I love them all. We have a good time. Half the time we're just laughing.
Well, and if a recession comes, what will you spend money on? Many people would say I'll forgo my face because of my sexual health or sexual wellness. Like, I think it's also a business buffer. When we saw COVID come, people who did IVs, who did testosterone, they got to all stay open. We didn't get to, right? If you just did injectables all day, you didn't get to stay open. You were a med spa. But if you had medical procedures and things, you could. You also can use like FSA, HSA because it's considered medical in many cases. You can actually use some of your reimbursement. You can't use that for getting your lip filler. So there's some big advantages there. And I think it also gives people another provider, another medical professional to be in charge of their care. Because I think women don't go to the doctor anymore. I never go. I haven't been to the doctor in like 3 years. I never go to the doctor. And I only go to my gynecologist ever, right? She's the only person that ever sees me for years. It's another relationship with a healthcare provider who can be looking after your care and can be part of your wellness. I think when things change in that region, it's like things are changing in your whole body. It kind of shows up there first, right? Testosterone, hormones, etc. So I don't know. I think it's a brilliant idea, and I think the wellness industry is so much bigger than we are. Lessons to be learned there. That it's a great opportunity for us. But you said one thing that really stuck with me that people hate me for saying this. They're going to hate me, but I think patients are very, very smart. If you go on Instagram right now, you're going to see 15 posts about how dumb patients are. That they don't know anything. They want 2 units of Botox for the whole face. Yada yada yada. Those are edge cases. I think the most patients who come into your practice have done their research. They're educated. They're informed. They know what's going on. and they feel ignored and dismissed if you don't explain things to them. And I think it's a disservice. And then if they leave your practice and go somewhere else, and you didn't tell them anything, they're going to tell the next guy, I don't know what I got. I have no idea. It just doesn't look good on you. It's like, you go to the next mechanic and like, well, that mechanic was terrible. Like, why would you not want to help them understand and learn? But I think bringing out your little box and presenting it to the queen with her little injectables is such a fun experience. But how much of your time do you spend in a consult? Like, that's a lot to explain to somebody, Chris. Like, that's a lot of time to say, here's what we're doing, here's how we're doing it. What does that tack on to your visit? Because you can't do 15-minute Botox if you're going to give that much information.
Yeah. So my Botox appointments are all 30 minutes for new patients. If they're already an established patient, I usually put it at 15 minutes. My staff, with quote unquote 15, I'm always running behind because my staff, I get the chatting, and then my staff is like, "Hey, we gotta go," and I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." They just want to add another syringe, so they're like, "We don't have time." Yeah, it's okay. We got it. So that's my staff is, I drive them crazy, but kudos to them for dealing with me in my craziness when I'm talking to my patients. I kind of times I get a little carried away, and they come in and they say, "Hey, you have a phone call, stay in track." So they keep me in track because we can talk here for 3 days if we want to, and I'll just keep talking and talking and having a good time, and I'm injecting and talking, and then they have questions. But I will say this: a lot of times with these patients, once you take that time with them, they'll keep coming back. You give them a full experience. Now, that can't be with everybody because you'll have that patient that just came in the lunch break for Botox, and I already know that. So it's boom, 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 quick in and out, and let's go. But they appreciate that because they're in a rush, and they're like, okay, you got them in now, and that's what they wanted. But that patient that has a couple out, they're housewives. The kids are in school. They want to have a conversation about this, about that. They want to learn about this and that. They appreciate all those things, and that's what I think in my practice has helped with my patient retention, because they come in and I give them they get the full experience. So, uh, does it tack on another extra 10-15 minutes of me blabbing away? Yeah, yeah, it does. But I think the extra 10-15 minutes has paid off, uh, extra, like 20,000 times extra, because they keep coming back to me for that same reason. So, it's a balance. I'm soon to the point that I'm going to have to bring another injector in to help me out, and the experience I provide. And patients want an experience. They'll come back for an experience. People buy an emotion. Patients thrive on experiences, and if I'm not providing that, I'm not doing my job.
Yeah, I agree. They'll go to a less good skilled injector because they want your experience. So that's proven time and time again. Surgical outcomes, like we see it all the time. But you are a relatively new business owner. Quite new, and I think you've had some bumps along the road, as we all have. But I'm curious. I mentioned we were on a discussion before this thing started about you had a different name not long ago. Like, your name is different now. You have a new branded med spa. And you mentioned a partnership, and I think people go into business a lot in the beginning of a partnership thinking it's going to be great, and then realize maybe it's not so great. But give us an idea as a new business owner, again, learning all these things about consultations and injectables and all the stuff you're doing, and going through a partnership and disbanding it and starting over. How did that whole thing happen, and what advice would you have for a person who's thinking about doing a partnership?
It's when we going back to the beginning of this video cast. Starting a business is very difficult. Choosing your partners appropriately is very difficult. When you're new business owner, that you're kind of understanding what business is and what it isn't. A lot of people start a business with their friends or people that they know, thinking that it's gonna melt in because we all come from the same background. It was easier. We have relativity because we know each other, and that was a big mistake that on my part. So the company used to be called Renew, back in the day, or a couple years back. There was multiple partners involved, but maybe about 7-8 months into the full partnership, we started noticing that not everybody had the same drive to do certain things. Expectations were different from partner to partner. Time allocated to the business was different from partner to partner, and we were all equally partnered. Like, we were all equal owners. So you start seeing frustrations from one partner to the other, and that starts turning into a little bit of resentment, and it goes from a friendship to what the heck just happened here. Uh, so what it was called Renew at that time, and everybody's handles. So I just go back to the Instagram now. Everybody's handles were associated with the company, so it was Renew. So my name at that time was called Renew with Chris. Another person's was Renew with, yeah, renew with, and that's how we kind of kept it all for branding purposes, which I thought was smart at the time. But as time kind of progressed, we understood that everybody had different priorities, and not everybody was prioritizing the business as others were. So, we had to kind of call it quits at that point. Um, and that's when I said, you know what, I'm going to just start fresh with what I want to do and my vision, my mission, my goal, my why in business, and take my why and expand it uh, into the community and what I want to do and move forward. So, my advice to people trying to start a med spa and trying to jump in with partners or multiple partners. In my case, there was four of us when we first started. So that's a lot of hands, and that's a lot of hands on the pot, and a lot of opinions, and it got a little complicated. Just understand that partnerships are difficult. They're a marriage. You're marrying the other person technically to the business. So you have to understand this, that both have to have the same drive, same goal, and that needs to be known and have it on paper. If you don't have this on paper, a big mistake that I made was I didn't have a lot of these things on paper, and I kind of went with, I know them, it's gonna go right. They're my friends. We've been working in the hospital for God knows how long, or we've been working at a clinic for God knows how long, and we have like, we're comfortable with each other. But when everything starts like hitting the wall, that doesn't matter. What matters is what's on paper. And so just make sure you find a partner that has the same goals, same drive, same energy, and is willing to put forward the same efforts that you are towards the business. And if you're okay with the other person not doing that, understand that maybe you just gotta, maybe you don't own the business 50-50. Move the percentages around, or if you own it 50-50, maybe have salary differences uh, between those two people. But yeah, the partnerships are tough. Partnerships are very difficult. I decided to move forward by myself without a partner. Not saying that I wouldn't partner with anybody else on anything later on. I just, now I'm a lot more educated on what having a partner in a business, and this is a business that takes a good amount of overhead to start. So it's not like, it's not something that you do online. You need to buy product, you need a place, you need to inject, you need licenses. It takes a good amount of an initial investment. Just be intelligent about it and make sure you pick the right person, and you have it on paper. Biggest thing is have it on paper.
Well, you're like the third person we've had on this podcast in 4 seasons that had a partnership that said put it on paper. You've got to write it on paper. You've got to have a lawyer to broker it. It's easier to get a divorce than it is to dissolve a partnership if you're in business. Like, to me, a marriage is far less legal than a business partnership because you're in it and people are depending on you, and it's hard to extract yourself. You have all these loans together on capital equipment, and it's a lot to do. I think, yeah, but luckily you did it early on. You didn't have some like 10-year amazing giant business that you have to now dissolve, and hurt feelings, and everyone's looking for money and it's chaos. Thank God you got it out of the way early, and you learned a lot of good lessons early on. So now at this point forward to negotiate everything, put it on paper, get a lawyer to look at your contracts, or call ChatGPT and have him look at your contracts, because he is a person. Even your lease agreements and things, like all that stuff's got to be reviewed by somebody and taken into consideration. And I think business is hard, but as you think about it being hard, what have been the things that you've stopped and said, holy shit, I had no idea this was going to be the hard part, or I didn't expect this to be the thing that really took me for a ride? Because I think there's things in my life every day that I'm like, that should not have been that hard. That should not have been that hard. Either I'm tired or stupid, or it really is that hard. So what are your big surprises that you didn't anticipate?
Biggest, other than the partnership debacle that I had, if I were to pick one of the biggest surprises that I'm like, the overhead, the initial overhead, when you open a med spa. Uh, I would say don't get into lasers unless you have the clientele for it. Those lasers will eat you up. But just the initial overhead when you're making purchases, and you still got to make sure that the marketing, you're not going to have 1,000 patients the first month of you opening your business. So you have to have enough funds to be able to get you through the slow times until your people know who you are. People know where you're at. People recognize your name, and the marketing actually kicks in. Marketing doesn't kick in immediately. You can start off with some word of mouth, which is great, which will be friends, family, and they'll talk. But that will quickly subside. You only have so many friends and family. So I would say it was the initial overhead, was a little bit of a like, okay, This is this is a little bit of a beast, but I'm going to take on it. I'm going to take on it. Um, and I will also say is the licensure. Like just the tedious of legalities behind everything. Uh, that understanding, my goodness, you can't do this, you can't do that, but you can do this and you can do that. And if your medical director is here, you can't do this, and your medical director needs to be this person, but can't be this person. And he can't be this far away, but he can be this far away. You can have. I hired 3 attorneys. Every attorney gave me a different answer. So what that makes me believe here is that it doesn't really matter what the attorney says, because this law, just like medicine, there's no black and white. It's a lot of gray. It's just hire a good attorney that can defend you. Honestly, I think that's really what it comes down to at the end. Hire a good attorney that can help you out, and find a good one that can help you at least with the basics of regulatory stuff, and just self-taught. Get self-taught. The time invested towards starting a business, it's if you don't have one before, or if you don't come from a business that you're like, okay, I know I need to do this, I need to do that. It's immense. It's draining. I spent a year and a half, almost 2 years, sleeping 3 hours a night. So it's a lot. It's a lot. But I've been thankful that I've had good mentors in my life to help me out as I've been moving forward. And it's funny. When I was in the fellowship, originally at the beginning, I was still under the name of the other company of Renew, and I got some good advice from my mentors at the fellowship, which that helps. Just associate yourself with good people that are knowledgeable. Find mentors. If you're new in aesthetic, find mentors. Not everybody's going to want to be your mentor. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but there's always somebody out there to help. Another guy that's helped me out a lot. His name is Jeff. He's in Sarasota. He's done fantastic. He owns an Elite Med Spa in Sarasota. He's opening his third location. He's fantastic. He's helped me out a lot with a lot of questions that I've had. And you've had her here before, Dana.
Mhm.
Dana, she's towards the beginning before she's helped me out a ton. I don't think you met her either. Her name is Ryan. She's in Fort Myers as well. She's Dana's friend. She helped me out. She's a nurse practitioner. Opened her second location. She's helped me out a ton as well. So it's about opening your mouth, communicating, and put in the work. Honestly, put in the work, do the right thing, and good things come your way.
Yeah, and don't break the rules if you know better, do better. But I think people get in trouble because they don't know there's all the rules. I mean, I think people make a good earnest effort to do things the right way, but to what you just said, the laws even are unclear to the medical boards, they're unclear to the nursing boards, they're unclear for sure to us as laymen that aren't part of either one of those groups. And our attorneys also don't know the answers. Like, how should we know the answer? And I think we find ourselves getting caught. But, also to what you said, if you do a good earnest, good faith effort to do the right thing, find an attorney who can defend you, and you're doing as best you can given the laws that that you've been provided, that's all you can hope for. But people cut corners all the time, and I feel like it just makes my skin crawl. It makes me sad to think people would put their license on the line for something dumb like just hire the attorney. Is your license worth what it would cost you to have an attorney consult with you a couple hours? Of course it's worth that. Just do it. There is no reward for cutting corners. Again, infinite game. The goal is to stay in business for a long time, not to be the fastest or the best or the number one. It's just to be here for a long time. So there's a trick to that, Chris. It's called surviving. It's called resilience, and just persistence in getting it done. I think you're doing it. But you had a big moment at Aesthetic Next to pull all. Oh, I just broke something here on my podcast. To pull it all full circle, you had a big moment on stage with Audrey. I just put an article through for Dermoscope, and I have a picture of you and Audrey on stage because you just look so happy in this picture, and she's having the best time with you. You just both look elated to be on stage, and it was just such a great moment. It was like the whole AN captured in a single photo. But give us an idea how that experience works. Because if you're a newer injector, you don't often get the chance to be on stage, especially with a person like Audrey, who's like, a pillar of our industry. So are you going to come back next year and do your own talk or what?
You know that I am. Now that I got a taste of it, I want more. It's funny how that kind of played out. So, as you know, I was a volunteer at Aesthetic Next 5.0 here, and as I volunteered around, I got to meet a lot of people. Uh, One of the after parties or after dinners was with Evelyn. So let me kind of rewind that a little bit more. I was actually one of the days that I was volunteering. I was sitting on the couch and I was with Alexis, and Audrey just sat down and started talking. That's the first time I actually met her, but Alexis has met her before. So I just kind of got to talking, and everything just it was fluent. It was natural, and it was good. There was a good vibe there, and she was awesome. She was very responsive to questions that I had, as a newer injector. I asked her things about how do I get on stage and how does it work? How was your first talk? I asked her questions about like you train now. Now you have a huge training program. How did that start? How did you start training? What was the like? How do you even get into those positions? So and she was more than willing to kind of like just talk to me about the because she remembers. She remembers when she was there. Um, Fast forward a little bit more towards that same night, we were at the. I randomly ended up at the Evolus dinner, so I'm like, okay, I'm there with Larry, Alexis, and Audrey. Audrey was there, and she came with Hanya. And anyways, we started the talking, had a couple cocktails. She's like, so you want to talk, right? She said, I have a talk tomorrow at 12. Meet me in my hotel at 11 in the morning. I'll show you my slides, and we'll take it from there. And she mentioned the topic, and I mentioned to her that I've been seeing a lot more patients with doing especially males with sexual health, and doing scroll talks and such forth. So she said, "This is perfect because that's what the talk is on." So 11 o'clock in the morning, I showed up over there to her hotel, looked over her slides really fast, what she had. I put in my 50 cents on everything that I wanted to talk about. And not even an hour later, I was on stage with her, which was fantastic. I'm forever grateful to her for having me walk up there. She said, I got to put you up there. It's time to throw you into the water. Let's do it. I said, let's go. I'm never going to back down from a situation in which I think it's beneficial towards my career. It's if you're not uncomfortable in life or doing things that make you uncomfortable, you're not growing. So let's just go. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? I'll stutter a little bit, but I think it worked out well. Funniest picture is I have there's a scrotum over my head half the time. So I have so I have a Larry. Larry's like trying to take pictures from the state from the audience. He's like, I can't even post any of these on Instagram when I'm on there. So it's just hilarious. It was a funny situation, but it worked out super well, including when I first walked in and I started talking, my head was bobbing a little bit. But
You'll get over that part. But a star is born. I mean, right there. But I have a lot of really good pictures of you that are professionally shot with no scrotum, so I'll send those to you. But I'm glad that that you got to do that, and kudos to Audrey for just tossing somebody a lifeline and an opportunity to do something really cool. Like that is not a thing you ever hear about, and I have actually never heard of anyone ever doing to this point. So, but that's why she's the queen. We all love her. She's the fairy. But I'm glad you got to do it, but I can't wait to see you come back on your own next year. I'm sure it'll be something fascinating. But we're at an hour, shockingly. You and I could both talk all day long. And, I want to wrap up here with give us, first of all, how to find you. But as you do that, Tox Papi, fun name. Everyone knows that. You had the cool glasses on at the Benev thing. Where'd that come from? How did you become Tox Papi? What a different name than the one with, Chris at Renew.
So when I was going through the, moving from company to company, I said, I got to find something now that I'm on my own. I need to have my persona. What do I want? I can use my name. I saw that a lot of people use injector in their name. I wanted to do something a little bit different and shorter. So I was bouncing off ideas. Funny enough, I was in my fellowship during the time, bouncing off ideas with all the guys, and we're all kind of throwing names and spitballing things. And I'm like, you know what? In my head, I'm like, what was the first aesthetic treatment that I've had? I mean, I haven't had too many, but the one that I've had is I have Botox. Or I was like, okay, so Tox. And then I was like, well, I'm Hispanic. What Hispanic name is out there that can be known, even if you take it to China, Japan, take it to Brazil, take it anywhere worldwide, people know Papi. So I said, you know what? Why don't I just put them together, short, sweet, to the point? It kind of represents me. Tox Papi came alive. And that's where it was born.
Perfect name for you. I love it. Well, what's next for you, and how do we get a hold of you if we want to follow all your happenings and all your business endeavors? Give us your deets.
So some of the deets that I have going on right now, I'm actually remodeling the my space at the clinic. So which is great. It's going to be I'm creating a speakeasy vibe inside. So it's going to be speakeasy, modern but sleek, sexy, manly, but still with a feminine touch to it. So it attracts everybody. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a vibe, which is really what I like and what I enjoy. From here, next thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm actually probably going to be visiting Scott in over there in Connecticut, and kind of talking to him about a couple of things, maybe some training opportunities. There's a couple of training opportunities that popped up here in the Orlando area with Empire Medical, with Dr. Chris Crowley. Actually, he was one of the speakers at at Aesthetic Next. So he was one of the other guys that actually helped me train well throughout a lot of my beginnings in aesthetic medicine. So I've been in communication with him to see if I can begin training with him. One more person I can't forget Lyris. Lyris has been phenomenal for me. She's every time there's anything going on, she lets me know. She's like, "Hey, do you want to go here? Do you want to learn this? Do you want to learn that?" Especially when it comes to threads. She's been all over that with me, so she's been phenomenal. So in 2024, I'm looking to expand a little bit more in the Orlando area and beginning my trainings and speaking at Aesthetic Next. That's coming. I'm excited for that. And any other conference that I can speak at, that's fantastic. I my next step as an aesthetic injector is growing my business to another level, training, speaking, and then seeing where that takes me. I think that's the next step in the evolution of injector. So where you can find me, So my Instagram handle is Tox Papi at Tox Papi. Very simple and to the point. My company name is AD Medical Spa. So A as in Adam, D as in David, and then Medical Spa, and it stands for Aesthetic District Med Spa here in the Orlando, Florida area. So if you guys have any questions, I'm always open to responding to messages. And yeah, I'm all about having fun, having a good time, doing things the right way, safety, good results, and as long as it's a vibe, I'm there.
Well, you are always a vibe. I've been around you a few times now. You're always you are a whole vibe, as they say. But I'm glad you came on today. It's fun to have, first of all, a man on the show because we don't get a whole lot of those, but just to hear your perspective and the differences and how you think about your patient experience. But I look to see great things from you. I'm sure it's going to be a great expansion, hiring new injectors and new staff and building out. But I'm waiting for the publishing to happen. I want to hear about your article whenever you come out with it. But let us know if you start training and who you're training for. But Aesthetic Next 6.0, put it on your calendar. You're doing it. You're going to be there. Be there, be square.
I love it. I'm super excited. I want to finish up with, I can never, your a business is nothing without a staff. I definitely need to give a shout out to my staff and Felicia, Yanel, Adriana, my esthetician, and my medical director. Everybody involved in the Aesthetic District Med Spa I'm a pain in the butt. I'm a stickler. I like having a good time, but I when it comes to business, I'm a stickler, and they've dealt with it. I'm going to say admirably. So I definitely want to say my love to them. The business doesn't run without them. They're the heartbeat. I'm just there to do whatever they tell me to do.
Well, that right there is a winning formula. Whenever you recognize that your staff is what makes it all work. I'm hard to deal with too, so I can empathize with that. My team, I don't know how they survive me, but we all make it somehow without killing each other, which is good. But no, I think the sky's the limit for you, and I'm excited to see where we are next year at this time and what you've been able to accomplish. So keep up the good work and the focus on safety and patient outcomes. And I like the idea that profits are kind of third place because they're going to show up. If you do good things, they're going to come. So kudos on all your success in making the big jump to aesthetics. And with that, that's all I've got, Chris. I could talk to you all day long, so I got to shut up and head out.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me. This has been fantastic. I love it. Invite me anytime. I'm always here for you. Tiffany, thank you so much.
You're welcome. We'll see you guys next week. Bye. Thanks for listening to another episode of For the Record. This podcast is not intended to provide legal or medical advice. It's for entertainment, education, and information purposes only. For more information on this week's guest or to get started with Aesthetic Record, email us at info@aestheticrecord.com. Be sure to tune in next week for more fresh perspectives on disrupting the status quo and surviving in the aesthetics industry.